Welcome to the Manual Channel. I'm your host, Dan Gaul, and today we're doing something a little bit unique. We are going to do a video with Eddie Gonzalez from Wolves Whiskey. And what we're going to do is make a cocktail together, not just by myself. And then we're going to talk about this new whiskey that they have coming out. So, with that, Eddie, welcome. I'm super excited to do this today with you.
Very excited to be here. I remember our last interview. One of my favorite parts of the conversation is what we like to drink. Being in the spirits industry, your favorite cocktail, you kind of go through phases, but the longest running phase for me has always been the Boulevardier. So today we're going to make it with our new product, the Wolves 5-year American Single Malt. What's really interesting about this product, aged 5 years in California wine barrels in the hot Arizona heat. So you get a lot of beautiful barrel influence, some nice pops of berry fruit in there. And then we finished it 5 weeks in cognac casks. So you get some beautiful hints of honey and toffee and nice pop of cognac influence on the front. But let's get into this cocktail. So this is a beautiful classic cocktail, three components: Campari, sweet vermouth, and then your base spirit. So in a Boulevardier, typically rye whiskey, but we're going to sub that out with our 5-year American single malt. The 5 years in that California Cabernet casks, in French oak specifically, give it a nice mid palate of that spiciness, which really complements the cocktail. So it's going to be an ounce and a half of spirit.
I'm going to follow you along.
Oh yeah. Let's go ahead and dump it right into your mixing tin.
There we go.
And you go online and you'll find a couple different recipes, and everybody's kind of got their own way of making their own Boulevardier. My personal favorite is always going to be a little more spirit forward. So we go with the 1.5, three quarters, three quarters. So this next portion is going to be three quarters sweet vermouth.
Yeah, I love how big your bottle of sweet vermouth is. Mine is an itty bitty witty one.
So I have some half bottles, which is my favorite platform, just because one thing you have to worry about with sweet vermouth is oxidation. So you always, as soon as you open a bottle of sweet vermouth, you keep it in the fridge and you keep the top on of all spirits or wine, but very important. And the longer it sits in a larger container, your bigger your chances of oxidation are. What I noticed is my half bottles have been in my fridge for about a year and a half. So I went out to go get a fresh bottle to make sure this cocktail tastes amazing.
Awesome.
Component, three-quarters of an ounce of Campari. And the thing about recipes, if you love Campari and like your cocktail a little more bitter, add a little bit more. If you like a little more silkiness to your cocktail, add some more sweet vermouth. More booze, that's just typically the standard recipe I tend to enjoy, but sometimes I want a more velvety cocktail, add a little more sweet vermouth. Less sweet, add more bitter. That's a fun part.
That's I love playing around with that. I don't think most people do that. They'll just kind of follow the recipe, which was pleasantly surprised you did one and a half on the spirit because normal Boulevardier recipe is three quarter, three quarter, three quarter. So like one, that's awesome, and then two, being able to play with the Campari, right? The Campari component makes it an interesting way to play around with that.
So the 1-1-1 or equal parts cocktail is typically a Negroni. So if you look in older cocktail books, the Boulevardier is a different cocktail. So it's spirit forward, typically with whiskey. So that's where you get that higher influence of whiskey. So you get that higher base spirit. So a lot of the times, especially being a bartender for so long, the best way to remember how to make a Boulevardier is a Negroni with whiskey. But it's a little bit different of a cocktail.
Yeah. Yep.
But let's put some ice in.
And I'm gonna go into my fridge to get some ice.
Two things to keep in mind here: the temperature of the cocktail and dilution. So I like to do my cocktail over ice. Some people like to do it up. So when it's up, you give a little more dilution. When you put it over ice, a little less because it's going to dilute in the glass. So in here, I think it's like 30 to 60 spins, or I just count to 10 or 15 long counts. Now you could always put your hand here to see how cold the glass is actually getting.
Uh-huh. I got a question for you. You know what? I tend to spin the spoon while like in my finger while I stir it. Do you do the same thing?
So I do something a little different. I flip it upside down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you do it with a handle, it's quicker to spin. Some people call it cheating. I like to make my cocktails fast. Easier to spin in there, especially if you don't have very uniform ice, you get it in there and it's easier to spin a lot quicker.
That is a great tip because this spins like 20 million times faster this way.
Yeah, and I'm about ready to pour this out here.
I'm going to do the same. I had to run and grab a glass because for some reason I totally forgot that. And of course, there we go. What a beautiful color too.
Oh yeah. And I went ahead and put a big rock ice cube in there.
There you go. Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, you're good. Everybody does it. Way to do it. And I did it backwards. You put the ice in first and then put the liquid in. That's the
That's what I normally do, but I completely spaced. I was like, oh man, I don't have my glass here. I had to run and grab a glass. I was trying to catch up with you.
last touches. You're gonna take that orange peeler. You just pull down away from you, and then you just express it. You want to get fancy, you pull out a match, and you know those oils are flammable, so you get a nice little show for everybody. And if you
Yep.
want to take it to the next level, I'm on a cutting board. So you see how the edges are rough here?
Yep.
This is
Uh-huh.
called manicuring the peel. So you'll take that, just take it along the edge and clean it up a little bit. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with just sticking that peel in there as is, but like to make it a little prettier than the normal cocktail and have a little more fun with it.
I love it. All right, shall we try this puppy out?
Cheers.
Cheers.
So on the nose, you pick up kind of that for me, that sweet vermouth up front, the nice velvety texture up there, bitterness behind that. And I still get that pop of cognac in there just from that subtle cognac influence in the whiskey. Adds a level of complexity to the cocktail.
I've had a few Boulevardiers since we last talked, and this one has a different flavor to me, and I think it's because of the Wolves whiskey here. Almost a nuttiness on the back end for me.
Yeah, a little
It's actually
nuttiness. I get pops of almost chocolate in there.
yeah,
And then
it's actually
you'll
really good.
you'll pick up some notes once we get into that neat pour of this, because this whiskey, I've been showing it around town and I'm very happy with how it came out. We bottled it at 96 proof. The flavors are just there. I mean, you get that pop of cognac, that bright fruit from from the Cabernet barrels, and then you still retain that maltiness characteristics and that spice in the mid palate, which really gives it a beautiful roundness and can hold up very well in a cocktail.
I love about this too for being a slightly higher proof than a normal
Mhm.
like 40%. There's no internal hugging. There's no burn on this at all, at least through the cocktail where, a lot of like heavy alcohol whiskeys will still burn even in a cocktail, for me at least. So
Yeah,
super
goes
soft.
to the stylistically, that's a having fun with your cocktail recipes is you could push it up and have a little more of that burn effect. You could
Yeah.
tone it down. You could swap it for a barrel proof whiskey and go super high alcohol on it. But like on a hot summer day, it's been over 100 degrees here in LA for a long time. So like a nice, well diluted cocktail on a hot summer night, beautiful.
Yeah, and we put in 1.5 ounces of this in, and you can definitely get the notes and on the palate, which is great. But you don't get for me, I don't really like a lot of super heat, right? Like, so this is super nice and subtle, and it's actually very beautiful. Thank you, Eddie.
Of course. The more of drinking over the last 5 years, your palate progresses. You start off with your food at 40 proof, and then you go to 100, and then you go search out all the highest proof whiskeys you could find. And then as of lately, I still enjoy and respect the barrel proof, but as of lately, I've been finding myself dipping under 100 more often and more often, just because, you want that drink to be nice and enjoyable over a long period of time. I find myself having lower proof drinks more enjoyable. Not too low though, like 95, 96, right around 100. I think it's a great experience, and I think the bottling at 96 here still holds its own in a cocktail you'll taste it on its own next, and it's pretty dang good. I think it drinks well under 96, and there's some levels of complexity in this pour that are absolutely beautiful.
So I am gonna run and grab a wine glass because I love sipping straight now out of a wine glass. That was something I learned from you. I keep learning from you, Eddie. Thank you so much. Uh,
Absolutely. I'm gonna run and grab one as well.
all right, let's go do it together. Tell me more about this release. First, what are you calling it? And while you talk, I'm gonna pour myself some.
Yeah, so this is a Wolves 5-year American single malt. So very excited to bring this to market. It is a beautiful drink and new to the Wolves portfolio. You're one of the few people on the planet to even try it yet. We're still shipping cases around the world, and you're definitely in the top 10 people that have gotten it first. It's our first flagship, so this is going to be available year round, which is a new concept for Wolves. We started our brand with limited time offerings, putting them up for a very short period of time until they sell out. And this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for a lot of new introductions to the brand. A lower price point that's going to be right around 89.99 on the shelf, depending on where you are in the country. Liquor laws are fun and fantastic and different in every state. So, the prices can fluctuate around that price point. So it's definitely at a price point where we want to show the brand to a new group of drinkers and introduce them to what the brand is. And what was very important when we were coming out with the idea to release the SKU is still retaining that quality that Wolves is known for. So as we sourced and tasted barrels from all over the country, it was very important for me to identify barrels that were held up to that standard. So tasted barrels from all over the country, and not a lot of them held up to what I thought would be perfect in this bottle until we found these barrels in Arizona. It's a library collection, well, great age on it. Finding any barrels available with any age in this American single malt category, extremely difficult. Newer category, but very exciting category. And this is why we wanted to hone in on this category. We have released a couple of American single malts, a 6-year, a 7-year, and that 11-year that we had together not too long ago. And this just felt like home. Moving forward, American single malt, I think, is going to have a lot of opportunity for growth. A couple things I personally love about American single malt. You could age your whiskey in any type of barrels. So within bourbon and rye, you have a little more restrictions limited to that new American oak, which is fantastic. I love bourbon and I love rye, but bourbon will always taste like bourbon and rye will always taste like rye. You have some variability with the mash bills, and now people are experimenting with finishes, which I love. I love the storied history of bourbon, but American single malt has a little more ability to, age for 5 years in a California Cabernet cask, for example. So you get that pop of red fruit and spiciness from the French oak. And then with that addition of the cognac component on the finishing, absolutely beautiful cocktail or pour.
Yeah, and this smells fantastic. I tried to add some to my hand and rub that alcohol off, and I get a lot of the orange from just zesting,
Yeah,
but still,
once you express that orange zest in the room, it's kind of hard to pick up anything else.
yeah, but it smelled really good. So I would actually go like try it because like that smell. I mean, it's almost like smelling the Boulevardier. Um, but just out of the glass, right? I get that cognac like right up front.
Oh,
That the hints of the raisins, the fruit.
yeah,
It smells
right.
really,
Honey. I get some
yeah,
graham cracker. And what you'll notice,
yeah.
like the nose is beautiful, but once you jump into the palate, I mean, it just layers your palate at 96 proof. I think it drinks more like a 92 or a 94. Super long distillation process when it comes to this selection. About 1 barrel per day per distillation day, low and slow, double pot distilled. So, the advantages of having that pot distillation versus column still is you get that caramelization of the sugars in the distillation process, so nice, sweeter, rounder notes, which I really enjoy.
All right, I'm gonna take a sip of this.
Oh yeah, jump in. What do you think?
I'm, do- I'm doing the third. I'm doing the third hit
Oh,
right
get in
now.
there, get in there. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Mm, really good. Again, like you can definitely taste that cognac in there. It has a great influence. You have there's a little bit of heat, but it's definitely not as strong as that the last wolves I had.
Bottled at 110 proof, and that
Yeah,
heat of a year in comparison really comes at you. this in particular, it's a very layered approach. So when we were sourcing these barrels, we noticed a lot of beautiful red fruit, which really attracted me to the barrels in the first place. But we identified that we wanted to finish it in either a wine casks or a spirit cask. We ultimately decided on cognac casks, thinking that that toffee, dried fruit, graham cracker up front would really complement the whiskey itself. So you get that on the front end, on the front nose, on the front palate, and it rolls into that bright red fruit, which we didn't want to lose too much of either. Then on the mid palate, you still get a touch of that maltiness and that spiciness, which really holds everything together and brings it nice and rounded. When we were finishing this, it was very important for me to not over age it in that cognac cask, to have a pop of that cognac, have that influence, but not make this whiskey into cognac. And I think that's a very fine line. I've had some whiskeys out there that, you know it's sherry finished, but when all you taste is sherry and you lose a lot of that base spirit characteristics, I feel like it gets shined out a lot. So very important for me to have that balance, retain that balance, have that cognac influence, still have that malty characteristics on the mid palate, and just have beautiful balance. I think we achieved that at 96 proof, and I'm very happy with how the whiskey came out.
Yeah, it's good job. Congratulations. And so this is again a 5 year whiskey. Is it aged 5 years in those cognac casks, or did you age them in like American white oak and then move them into the cognac cask?
So great question. So this was actually aged 5 years in California Cabernet barrels. So we take used barrels that previously held California Cabernet out of Napa, French oak, and then aged for 5 years in Arizona. So that Arizona heat does something incredible. Low humidity raises that proof just through the roof, paired with that heat. And that heat, if you think about it, the barrel and how it opens and contracts as that heat fluctuates. In Arizona, it just gets exemplified. So that barrel impact is a lot larger, especially when something like you can't quote me on this, but they have a significant amount of days at over 100 degrees a year per year.
Yeah, yeah.
So, the big worry about that amount of heat when it comes to whiskey is how much you'll lose to angel share over time. But paired with that low humidity in Arizona, it evaporates the water in the barrels versus losing too much of the whiskey. So that proof level, I mean, when we were blending this, that was at right around 140 proof. Then we introduced it to those 400-liter cognac casks and then proofed it down.
It's great. So then it's finished in the cognac casks.
Very, when it comes to the finishing world, it's like the first fill cognac casks shipped whole are very exciting things. I mean, we found some beautiful cognac casks, and it's pretty rare to find those cognac casks. They only dump casks 2 or 3 times a year. So everything lined up, and we were able to secure some cognac casks to then finish this whiskey. So very, very exciting. I've always been a fan of cognac and admired the spirit, especially growing up listening to rap music.
Yeah,
I
a
love
little bit
cognac.
of yeah, cognac's great. My family, growing up, they drink a lot of cognac. It's one of those. It's iconic, I would say, a little bit like in the lifestyle realm for sure. Right, there's a few that dominate in that area.
The 13th and all those are that is massive, massive influence in not only spirits but culture.
Oh, for sure. Served a lot at weddings that I've been to.
Oh, nice.
I
Sure,
love
that
it.
nose brings back some good memories, right?
Oh yeah, that's why it's like kind of I feel like feels familiar a little bit, and especially with like I get a lot of just upfront raisin, and I don't know if that's just from the corn. It actually smells better in here than I would say from like me smelling a cognac, and that to me is probably also the influence of the barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. So how many barrels did you guys make of this? How many are for sale? Because like the one I had last time, and I'm brain farting on the name of it, but I remember there was 9 barrels.
Yeah, here lot two. So this is going to be we dumped right around 105 barrels, so a much larger production intended to push the brand forward and introduce this brand to a wider array of consumers, especially at the price point. Very excited to offer this at right around $90 for the majority of places, right in that realm of being able to, buy a gift or two for your coworkers or anything, and really sharing this with your friends, and awesome whiskey that you could celebrate with or just drink on a random Tuesday. And I think that ability to kind of play both sides is very important. What Wolves loves.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you shared this with anybody else outside of Wolves yet? And what has been the reaction if you have?
Yeah, so we've sent this around to some press, and the first couple of accounts that we're looking to sell into independent retailers, mostly in some small, very nice restaurants, and it's been very well received. I mean, American Single Malt, the category is very young, so to have a 5-year whiskey and have it age stated on the label is very rare. A lot of American Single Malts are out there, but not a lot of age statements. Moving forward with that, having a very well-aged product and then layering that complexity of finishing it in something like a cognac casks is very interesting and very different to what the industry standard is. I would say sherry finished is what most everybody starts and develops into some whiskeys that are double barrel finished or wine finished. So we wanted to do something a little different, something that stayed true to Wolves, still very high quality, taking a path aside from what the mainstream would typically do. And we gave sherry a shot. It's not like we said no immediately. We had the opportunity to test it in-house and see what that whiskey would feel like in a sherry cask. Because of the wine barrels in this particular blend that already had that beautiful bright red fruit, we didn't need any more of that. So the cognac offered an opportunity to bring some beautiful roundness of that raisin, honey, toffee, graham cracker that I pick up on the nose that really balanced this pour.
So, this brand new release, is it available like now, or is there a release date that we can share with the people watching?
Yeah, absolutely. Our online release date is actually September 16th, so right next week. So, but after that, this product is going to be available year round. So, whenever anybody would see this video, it'd be go right to our website, wolveswhiskeyca.com. Go check us out, and we'll ship right to you. I think right now we can ship to most places on the in the country, but we have some exclusions.
And you can get that on the website, I'm sure. So by the time we release this video, you'll be able to buy this. So definitely check this out. The first time Eddie and I talked, definitely go check out that video as well. Wolves Whiskey. I had an absolute great time with you, Eddie, in the first video, and I was so excited to do this one because I am a fan of Wolves Whiskey. That first bottle was absolutely amazing. And I didn't want to share it, man. I was like holding on. This is a perfect bottle for me to take into the office and share it around and spread the message.
And that was the intention. We created some fantastic products. They're up right here, but they're prizes. They're for special nights. So this gives you the opportunity to introduce your coworkers, your family, your friends to the brand. And, it was very important to maintain that level of quality for us. So introduce a new price point, but still that beautiful Wolves high quality layered approach to the whiskey.
I'm going to continue drinking this Boulevardier too because it is absolutely delicious. Before we wrap this up, Eddie, though, can you give us any insight on? So this is your latest project. It's getting released next week, September 16th. What else do you have in the pipeline that you can share? Is there anything else you can share with us?
Absolutely. I mean, Wolves is always going to have that DNA of limited time offerings, and we're always looking for amazing partners to partner with and create beautiful examples of bottles. So I can't share anything just yet, but I'll send you a text when I'm at the bottling line, and we'll get you some bottles as soon as we can.
For sure. I am super stoked on that. And I'm just going to lead into a little bit before we go, which is your old school Mercedes passion. I love it. I love when you send me photos of those cars. How's that going? Did you go buy that car that you sent me a photo of last time?
I did. And when it comes to the Mercedes world, I mean, that's another level of car. So it's a 1968 250 SE or a W111 Coupe. It's actually the car that was featured in The Hangover. So, you kind of probably recognize it from that. That's a convertible. I have the hardtop, and it's been on the list for 10, 15 years. And, the opportunity to buy it, how I bought it, it was listed for 31 minutes when I reached out to the gentleman that put it on offer up. So I couldn't believe it, but I was the first one to reach out. He got offered two times what I paid for it and held to his word and gave me that car for what he listed it for, which is a very rare and hard thing to do. But he was a stand-up guy. His father owned it. He doesn't know how long, but from what I've gathered, at least since the early 80s, there's some beautiful pamphlets on a trip that they took that car to Mexico. So a pamphlet of like a Tijuana guide and a Baja California. So as soon as I get it running and up and going, I have some big plans for it. I'm selling a couple of other things to fund this project just because this chassis is a little more expensive and getting the parts together. But at the same time, the parts are there. The challenge I've always had with the younger Mercedes is they've been unappreciated for a long time, and now there's appreciation, but the aftermarket support for them died out a couple years ago. So it's going to be a while, and the part search is half the fun. So I've made a lot of great friends searching for parts, but I'm excited to put this car back on the road. Manual transmission, beautiful car, and I've got a lot of fun plans for it. So as you can tell, I have a huge passion for these cars, and my house is half whiskey and half car parts. So very little space left. Both of them take up a lot of space.
Those are great passions to have, though, man. And you know what? Like, I feel like there's like whiskey and cars, or cars and whiskey instead of cars and coffee. You know, in your future, at the very least, with some Mercedes stuff. And I love those cars too. I cannot wait to see your journey as you build this car back up. And I'm sure you're going to be spending a ton of time on eBay and probably at some junkyards, at least on their websites, looking for those things. I know what it's like with my 1974 Kawasaki. You know, those parts, when you find them, you buy them even if you don't need them, because you never
And
know when you do.
that's how I have five steering wheels in my kitchen right now.
I love it. You can find a way to use them, maybe like as plate holders or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that, you know?
yes. I know where they're going, and I know one of them is for a car I will buy in the future. Don't know when, but that's how it goes.
I love it. Well,
Yeah,
Eddie, thank you so much for your time today and sharing this wonderful Boulevardier recipe. It is fantastic. And with this new Wolves whiskey, 5 year aged in cognac cask, you can buy it September 16th, $90. Well worth it. It's delicious. And for everybody watching, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe so you get more content like this. Eddie, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure, always a pleasure. Can't wait to meet you soon in person, and either if I come up there or you come down here and we go drive some Mercedes, we'll make it happen.
I would love that. All right. And with that, we are out. Have a great day.